y'all, it is Hope at Crafty Hope, and I am here in another art journal. This one is a small junk journal I made in December, I think, for Kasha of Everything Arts Advent hop thing. Well, it wasn't a hop, but an Advent calendar journaling thing she had done. I had some pages left in the journal, and I don't like to leave them there. And I'm trying to use up the journals that I have and fill them up so that I can have some more journals. Now, this is a pretty simple journal to make. At some point, I may show y'all how I make a junk journal, but for now, there are tons of how to make and junk journals, or how to bind your own junk journals, or lots of artists out there that just make them and sell them if you want to buy one. So, the theme of this page today is really just kind of using some of the stuff I have. I recently here decided I wanted to rust color a bunch of stuff using and rust things and rust dye them. I used Art Girl Creations tutorial. I'll try to link that below in the description box, but I used her tutorial to rust up some papers and fabric and all kinds of stuff. I actually rusted some paper clips and not clothespins, safety pins and all that kind of stuff. But I've got all these things in my stash that I never use, and this rust stuff just kind of added to it. So I'm like, I need to use this stuff. So I'm using up the journal. I'm going ahead and using some of the rusty pieces. As you see there, I've got a couple of it's a book page I tore down, and then a doily that I'm using. And I also have a bunch of paints that golden, I think it's Titan Buff, along with this tin of different Speedball and Liquitex paints and those oil pastels. All of those are like yard sale and estate sale finds that I picked up probably within the last year, but I haven't really touched them. So I'm trying to use these things. So I'm going through that tin, which is an old Werther's Original tin. And when I use these things, I'll probably cut that tin down to make some jewelry out of it. But for now, I'm trying to keep all of those together because I don't know how old these things are. And if they're no good, I kind of just want to throw them all out. But for now, I'm going to use them and see what happens. So I'm starting with I think that was like ultramarine blue, and using a brayer to spread it out. And it didn't spread as much as I wanted, but I know how good this paint is because it is a Liquitex paint. I'm just adding a little water to it, as you see, with just a paintbrush, spreading it a little bit, and then I'm going to brayer it again to spread that color out a touch more. And in doing so, I think, is it here? It may be in a little bit. I tear some of my paper, but I end up really liking that, so it's not a big deal. So I'm getting that all spread out, and then I'm trying to decide what I want to do next. I had no theme, no ideas, no anything in my process of doing this. I just kind of wanted to use some of the things I had on hand. So I grabbed that golden paint, and it is, like I said, I think it's Titan Buff is the name of it. It's kind of a off-white, and I'm just putting it down in a couple spots straight out of the container, and again brayering that. I think this is where maybe I tear my paper. You see I stop because I had saturated my paper there, and that's okay. It gave it some additional texture. It's kind of cool, and it's actually one of my favorite spots on the whole page. So actually, my favorite spot on the whole page is behind that doily. You'll see how this develops, and there's, like, I don't know, just a certain spot on that doily where all the colors kind of combine, and you get a peek at the rust behind it. It's heavenly. It really is. So I like surprises like that in art journaling, where there's like small little sections of things that just delight you. So, and I guess that's art in general does that. And then I've got this yellow. I don't know what color yellow it is. It's a Liquitex, and I'm just using a little paintbrush. I wanted to add a pop of brightness. I find that yellow brings a little happy to a page if a page starts to feel a little too, I don't know, depressing. And this one didn't feel depressing. It needed a little happy to it. So yellow adds a little happy. So I'm just adding little splooshes of yellow around with a smaller paintbrush because I knew I didn't want to add a whole lot, and I wanted to just get get that happy on there. So I'm going to dry all of that real quick before I move on. And I decide from here to pull out those oil pastels that were in there. These are just, I don't even know, I don't know that brand. It's still got a sticker on it from TGNY, which I don't believe exists anymore. I don't know if y'all had TGNYs, but they're um, like a pharmacy basically, or a five and dime. And they're not around anymore, but we used to have them all over the place, and it tickles me. I'll find stuff all the time at garage estate sales that have TGNY stickers on them, and it gives me a little giggle. So it's very nostalgic. So I don't take them off because I think it's awesome. So anyway, so I took that black oil pastel and just did some doodling. Nothing in particular. I just wanted some big like loopy lines on there. And once I got those on there, I stared at that page for a long time. I had to cut that out a little bit, and I decided since I had the blue and the yellow, I kind of needed some green, um, that would kind of represent how that blue and that yellow kind of meld together and make green. I tried a couple, and then I decided this lime green Stabilo Woody would kind of be the perfect thing to, I don't know, to represent that. Well, to make that green that would have been made by mixing that blue and that yellow. So I'm just going to blend it out a smidge with my, it's a slightly damp paintbrush just to kind of get that, you know, it's water soluble. Have it make magic, y'all. If y'all watch my videos, y'all know that I like when things that get that watercolor effect and they blend out and it's just magic. It's yummy. So I did that a little bit, adding some more of that green. And I think, you know, this page really, all in all, only took me about half an hour. I sped it up a bit so that y'all didn't have to see me, because there was a lot of me staring at it and trying to decide what did I want to use next on here. So in looking at what I had done with the oil pastel, I realized that those little loopy doodles I'd made looked like flowers, and so I really kind of wanted them to stand out. So I'm taking some titanium white, and I think that's one of the speedball paints that were in that thing, and I am just going to paint out the inside of those doodles just so that um, they have a little more definition to them, and not so much of the chaos of the color that's inside of them, because I know I can always come back and color again on top of them, and that's kind of my plan at this point, that I'm just going to color. And I kind of like that you can see as I'm doing it, some of the paints that are underneath kind of blend into it. It doesn't block out everything behind it completely. It just makes this pop a smidge more. So I'm going to get that painted, and then I'm going to dry it again. I'll grab my heat gun and dry these paints again, because I know what I want to do is take that oil pastel again and redefine those lines, get them back on there so you can see kind of the flower shapes that I had made originally. And I'm not going to try to exactly duplicate the lines. I just kind of want to do the same thing that I had done before with kind of those loopy doodles. These look a little more like flowers, I guess, than maybe the one before did, but I'm totally digging it here. So from there, I know that as much as those flowers are there, they weren't exactly popping off the page, and the white wasn't standing out as much as I wanted them to. So I take a Stabilo Woody in black. See, first I'm going to test and see if that oil pastel was water soluble, and it wasn't. So I'm going to take my black Stabilo Woody and outline each of these flower shapes and just give them a little shadow. And I could have used a Stabilo, and a Stabilo will come into play here later. But for these flowers, I'm just adding a shower because I don't know what I'm saying there. A shadow around them, because that'll give a little more definition, makes the white seem a little bit wider, makes the background blend out a little bit more, and you know, kind of gives these the feeling that they are kind of the standout on this page. So that's all I'm doing, is highlighting these, and I love that. I love adding a little shadow to something, and again, I get to blend out some water soluble stuff, and that makes me happy. So So that's what I'm going to do to all of these. And like I said, I'm trying to use up some of the things that are in my stash. So let's count off. What have I used? I've used the rusty things. I've used the journal that I haven't been using. I used that box of paints and oil pastels. And then I used that golden, what did I say it was? Titan Buff, that paint that I've all used that are not things that I have been using and needed to. So, y'all, I am doing it. I've just got to do it more often, I think. So, here I am again. I'm looking at it, trying to figure out what it is I want to add on it. So, I reach up and I grab these. I can't remember, they're chipboard quotes or something like that from Tim Holtz. I really love these. Um, I love that they're thick and chunky and they really do add a lot of texture. So, and I'm digging way into it because normally I just grab something out of it and the first thing that works I throw in there. But I'm really gonna dig into this one and find what I think is the best thing for it. So you see me going through a bunch of them. I've got a couple setting off to the side. And as soon as I get the one that says "Love This Life," I know that's it. That's that's what I need to put on this page. So that's what I decide on. But I knew that I didn't want to just stick it down like that. It needed to be kind of framed up and all of that. So I'm gonna grab some more of the stuff I rusted. And this time I'm grabbing the fabrics. And I did several different kinds of fabrics. And I ended up deciding on this one, which is just some cheap muslin. At least I think that's what it is. It's part of a what do you call it? The scraps that you get at the fabric store. I can't think what it's called when you get the scraps at the fabric store. There's a term. And I can't think of it. Anyway, so I'm gonna just take that piece of fabric that I had rust dyed and tear it down, and I can see that it's actually kind of ripping in a couple places, which is not what I had intended. I think I don't know if the rusting of it like hurt the integrity of it or something, but and it's okay. It ends up rusting. It ends up tearing exactly down the way I want. I get it down to size, and now you see all those little bits and pieces I've got off to the side. Now I've got all that yumminess to add in other pages, and I'm kind of excited about that. I'm hoping maybe later I can get and just start gluing some of that down. So, I've got this pretty little stack. The paper that's there is some of the same paper that I used to collage in the background, so that worked out perfectly. And because I'm using both fabric and that kind of heavy chipboard stuff, I want to use my matte gel medium because it'll work better than a glue stick to on those heavier and more textured materials. So, and it's weird because a lot of times I work from the bottom up. This time I'm working from the top down to get this glue down into place. I think I wanted to make sure everything was going to be centered just the way I wanted it. So, and for every layer, it gets a little bit of the matte gel. And I'm going to put it down, and then I'm going to sit back and look at it and realize that the Love This Life isn't standing out the way I want it to, and it needs to be framed up itself just the way I put the shadow around the flowers. So, and I know that Stabilo Woody won't go around that little space that's there. Straight on there. I mean, I guess I could use the paintbrush and have done it, but anyway, I just used my Stabilo all pencil and did exactly what I wanted. And that's gonna finish this page, you guys. I am so glad you came by and watched. If you like this, make sure to give me a thumbs up. Comment if you have any questions or need to tell me anything that I forgot to tell y'all. And I appreciate it. So make sure you subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Thanks, guys. Bye.